Hi, good evening, Neil Yawn. This is thetaxjournal.com. This is for purposes of accounting 452. And this is what's called a Type C reorg as governed under Section 368 of the Code. And what I'm going to do is let's just jump right into the illustration. If you feel need or compelled, please grab a copy of the section of the Code, that being 368. In essence, this type of reorganization is where we have a target. And there is an acquisition corp, and let's say we have acquisition corp and it says, geez, I really like the way target corp looks, however I'm a little troubled by the liability that it has with that governmental agency called blank, and it's concerned about that contingent liability. So what is proposed by acquiring corp is, hey, we'll look to acquire targeting corp, we'll issue voting stock to it. But what's important to note under a C reorg is for substantially all the assets, and at minimum the consideration going back over to target corp must at minimum pass the 80% test, which is 80% of the property going back over is voting stock. Now there can be other consideration, but acquiring corp must issue at minimum 80% of the property going to target. And you say, okay, they're going to issue shares of acquiring corp voting to the shareholders of target. What's going to happen to target corp should be one of your questions, or target company. Well, at the end of the day, because the assets of target corp are being distributed over to acquiring corp, target corp will ultimately liquidate and it will cease to exist and will go through a plan of liquidation. Only certain liabilities will ultimately follow over to acquiring corp, and the target corp shareholders will no longer have shares in target corp, but rather will then own shares in acquiring corp. This is one of the ideal ways to, at minimum, skirt around where there's a contingent liability that acquiring corp is concerned about, but they would really like to get a hold of target corp. This again is a C reorg, and a great way to take advantage of this situation. There's a couple things you need to note by way of shareholder vote, and also to keep in mind the 80% of property threshold. You also need to consider liabilities, how those liabilities impact that 80% test, what happens if other boot goes over. A little bit too voluminous to try to articulate here, but those are issues that you need to be aware of. Thank you.